Hey guys,
Hi.
thanks for joining us again. So, today we're going to be talking about the four horsemen of the apocalypse. And before you guys start to freak out about what is that, we're going to be talking a little bit about communication styles that can be really detrimental in marriages. So,
Yeah.
where did this term come from, the four horsemen of the apocalypse in relationships? So, John Gottman at the Gottman Institute has been doing research for decades on relationships. And they have been able to predict up to a 90% accuracy divorces when these things are happening, when the four horsemen of the apocalypse are happening in your relationship. So we're going to be talking a little bit about what those things are today and some antidotes for those four horsemen.
Yeah.
So the first one is criticism. So criticism is one of those things where no one wants to get it, right? No one appreciates criticism, even so-called constructive criticism.
Yeah.
But especially within the context of a relationship, whenever we criticize our partners, our partner oftentimes feels hurt and being brought down. And so criticism is saying things like, you always do this, or I always have to do this, and making generalizations that kind of attack the person at their core. So that's a huge problem. And if it's happening in your relationship a lot, that's a big red flag. But there's an antidote for it, fortunately, and Kara's going to be talking about that.
So the antidote for criticism is a gentle startup. And that simply means that you are not coming in on the attack and you're not raising your voice or giving the look, because I know us women, we can speak with our facial expressions and our tone of voice. We don't actually have to have a quote unquote bad tone of voice, but we can give the look.
Yes.
And we all know what that is, right? And so a gentle startup is just simply making sure that you are not coming in on the attack or on the rampage, and you're really speaking about yourself and your feelings, and not kind of like throwing daggers at the other person.
Right. Exactly. So the next horseman is contempt. So contempt is a pretty big one, and oftentimes that's when things start to escalate. In contempt, people are showing like this gross disrespect, maybe eye rolling or nonverbal communication, like things like that, where you're showing that hey, you don't respect this person anymore, or within that moment you don't respect that person, and so that can be very destructive as well, and it prevents the other person from joining with you and kind of getting back together with you to resolve issues, because you're putting up this picture that you just don't respect this person.
Right.
But thankfully that has an antidote as well.
And so the antidote for that is appreciation. And so building a culture of appreciation in your marriage where you just always think positively of the other person and you create a culture of high regard.
Right.
And I think that what that does is that it will be hard for you to have that venomous, almost hateful or angry, or with that overtone of just negativity, when the relationship is filled with appreciation, when there is just an idea that we are constantly feeding each other words of affirmation, we are constantly recognizing the little small day-to-day activities that our partner does for us. It literally does something to our brains when we start to think of positive thoughts.
Yes.
So creating just basically a culture of gratitude in your home, for just simple things such as like, I'm just grateful that you're working so hard, and I'm grateful that you are giving us this opportunity to have these experiences. I'm grateful for you making the bed.
Right.
And some of us feel like we shouldn't have to be grateful for things that you're supposed to do.
Right.
But hey, like those simple things go a long way.
Yes, they boost morale. And so when we focus on the negative things, which is easy to do,
right,
and it creates a situation where we are going to feel unappreciated by our partners. Sorry.
Just delete it.
Okay. And so the third horseman. No, I'm fine now.
Okay.
It's just weird. The third horseman is defensiveness. So defensiveness is one of those things that happens very easily, because whenever you feel attacked, it's very easy to get into defensiveness, right? So it's one of those horsemen where people are like, well, I don't see what the problem with that is, because if somebody's attacking me, I'm going to defend myself, right? And so defensiveness is very easy to get into. The problem with it is that it prevents you from taking any responsibility And so oftentimes it can prevent any kind of resolution of issues because almost in any situation, there could be something you could be doing better.
Yeah. And the key to defensiveness is taking responsibility because in most every situation, there is some aspect that we could take responsibility for, whether it is simply our response. We cannot control the other person. We cannot control what the other person does. So even if you're in a situation where you know you have been wrong, you know what I mean? Like if you're in an abusive situation or if you are in a situation where maybe your partner is addicted to drugs or addicted to pornography or has some type of addiction or some type of something going on. So you feel like, ain't no way I am apologizing for anything or taking responsibility for anything. In those situations, the only thing that you have that you can control is yourself.
Exactly.
And so you can control how you choose to respond. You can control the boundaries you choose to set, the boundaries that you establish in your relationship, the attitude that you have on a day-to-day. Those are the things that you can take responsibility for.
Exactly. And that is crucial because when you're defensive, then as you're saying, it prevents you from having any agency within the situation. And so you can't change anything if you literally can take responsibility for nothing in that situation. So the fourth horseman is stonewalling. And so this is a big one because things really start to go badly in relationships when people start to stonewall. So stonewalling is literally just not responding to the person. So emotionally, just getting really quiet or even walking out of a room when the person gets you upset. And so you literally do not engage with them. Now, sometimes people may think that they're stonewalling to protect the relationship, but it can be very, very dangerous because the other partner feels like you're literally cutting them out of the relationship. And that can be very hurtful. But thankfully, there's an antidote for that as well.
A lot of one of the reasons why people stonewall is because you're emotionally flooded. So you have just gotten to the point where you cannot take it anymore, and you just need to exit. You just need to leave the room, leave the scene. You're shutting down because you are flooded emotionally. And so what you need to do in that situation is simply ask for a break or properly take a time out. So instead of walking off or growing silent or growing stone cold, you say, listen, we are being, this is not helpful right now and we need a break. I need a break. And we need to have like a code word or something that we can say during those times where that is like our signal. Whatever that may be. It could be pineapple. It could be, it could be like the timeout sign. It could be anything, but you guys need to agree on it beforehand.
Right, definitely.
So that way when you do feel yourself flooded and you do feel like you need to take a break, you can give the timeout signal and you can then retreat to yourself and do something that is going to help calm you down. And the idea then is that once you are calm, you can revisit the conversation within 24 hours. Right. Exactly, ideally.
Exactly. Because the key thing here is that you're trying to protect the relationship.
Yes.
So there are very few issues that are bigger than your relationship.
Yeah.
And so resolving or fixing a problem in that moment is not nearly as important as protecting your relationship. So this is one of the ways in which you can do that.
Yeah. Well, I hope you guys found this helpful.
Yes, I hope so. Because, for a lot of people, they slip into these patterns, but there are things that you can do. So I want you to feel like you have the ability to change things in your relationship.
Yes. And please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and to share. And do follow us on Instagram and join our Facebook group. And we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
All right, guys. You take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.